Alrighty, good evening everyone, and welcome to MIT 100K launch.
Woo!
Breathing into the mic.
I'm Christina, and I'm one of the managing directors along with William and Supriya here. We're really excited to have you join us both in person here and on the live stream wherever you may be in this world. For those of you who aren't familiar, the MIT 100K competition began over 30 years ago when students and Professor Ed Roberts raised $10,000 to turn MIT's Mens et Manus motto into a startup challenge. With sponsor support, it grew quickly from $10,000 to today's $100,000 grand prize and a thriving entrepreneurial tradition. But this competition isn't just about one night. It's a year-long journey. It kicks off with pitch in December, moves into accelerate in March, and leads up to launch happening today, where finalists compete for the $100,000 grand prize.
Of course, this is all made possible by our incredible sponsors. First, we'd like to thank Akamai, our presenting sponsor. Akamai represents one of our greatest success stories. Founded by MIT professor Dr. Tom Layton and graduate student Danny Lewin in 1998, Akamai was a finalist in what used to be the 50K entrepreneurship competition and has since grown to be an industry leader. Now, they're paying it forward, helping young entrepreneurs chase their dreams. We remain appreciative toward their ongoing generous support toward the 100K competition. We would also like to give a heartfelt thank you to the Morgenthaler Foundation, the sponsor of today's David T. Morgenthaler Founders Prize. The Morgenthaler Foundation has been a supporter of the MIT 100K competition since its early days. In honor of the late David Morgenthaler, an MIT alum and a true champion of entrepreneurship, they've not only sustained but increased their sponsorship this year, deepening their impact on MIT's startup ecosystem. Thanks to our sponsors, we're able to bring this competition to life and provide funding for the next generation of MIT's innovators. Let's please give them a round of applause.
And of course, this competition would not have been possible without our preliminary judges that volunteered their time in reviewing applications and also giving very crucial feedback to competitors and making sure that this competition stays fair. But now I would like to do the honor of introducing our very esteemed panel of judges for tonight. So first up, we have Mike Droesch, and you can give him a round of applause as he comes on stage. So Mike is a partner at Bessemer Venture Partners, where he focuses on AI, cybersecurity, and enterprise software. He serves on the boards of 9 portfolio companies and is an MIT Sloan alum, with a background in engineering, consulting, and Boston-based startups. And next up, we have Dr. Francesco Benedetti. Benedetti is the co-founder and CEO of Osmosis, which is a startup advancing industrial gas separation to support a low-carbon future. He holds a PhD in chemical engineering, was a postdoc at MIT, and perhaps most impressively, he won this exact competition, the $100,000 grand prize in 2021. We are also very thrilled to welcome to the stage Jasmina Aganovic. Jasmina is an entrepreneur at the intersection of science and beauty. She's an MIT alum in chemical and biological engineering, and she's worked with brands like Fresh, Living Proof, and Mother Dirt before founding Archaea, a biology-first beauty company. Archaea's first brand, Future Society, launched 6 fragrances inspired by extinct flowers, made possible through DNA sequencing and world-class perfumery. Next, I'd like to welcome Victor Lanyo. So Victor is a partner at Flare Capital Partners. Thank you, Victor. A healthcare-focused VC firm. He previously held strategy and product roles at Curaspan, PwC, and McKinsey, and earned his MBA from MIT Sloan. He also co-founded the MIT Healthcare Innovations Prize that is still ongoing today. And last but not least, we have Hyuk-Jin Suh. Hyuk-Jin is a general partner at Sky River Ventures, investing in frontier tech across deep tech, biotech, and semiconductors. He formerly led Samsung Ventures America's East Coast office and co-founded Venex, a collaborative VC hub. He holds degrees from Cornell, UIUC, and Yale. So if you could please help me in giving another round of applause to the judges.
Finally, we also want to thank everyone on the MIT 100K organizing committee. Big round of applause for those folks. Our team members invested countless hours to ensure that the 100K is a success, and without them, none of this would be possible. We also want to recognize our audio and video production teams at MIT, which have been so helpful in enabling this hybrid event. All right, now let's get to the main thing. In April, over 50 teams applied to compete in tonight's event, and our network of external judges reviewed each application in the preliminary round. This evening, 8 teams will compete for the grand prize of $100,000, the David T. Morgan Thaler Founders Prize of $50,000, and the third place and Audience Choice Award of $5K each. We'll start off with 5-minute pitches from our 8 finalists to give you an overview of the exciting ventures that they've been working on. Each finalist will then take 4 minutes of questions from the judging team to dive into their ideas. Once you've heard from the teams, you can vote to determine who will win the $5,000 Audience Choice Award by using the voting card that you received when you entered the event. To all of our competitors tonight, we wish you the best of luck. Please silence your phones. And now let's get to the pitches. Thank you very much.
Yeah, give these competitors a round of applause, please. Yeah, thank you. All right, I'd like to introduce our first pitch of the evening. So please welcome onto the stage Flood Dynamics. Flood Dynamics provides real-time AI-powered flood risk modeling to help cities, insurers, and developers adapt smarter and protect communities from urban flooding. All right, Flood Dynamics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katya. I'm a co-founder of Flood Dynamics, and we're here to revolutionize the flood risk assessment world, predicting tomorrow's flood damages today. Before we dive into the problem and our solution, we want to just show you the timeline of our creation. We developed the technology here at MIT. We embarked and completed 2 city-scale pilots. In 2024, MIT adopted our technology and our flood model. And in 2025, we've been in over 40 active conversations with multiple municipalities, insurances, and large banks. And now we're ready to scale this up and make every city around the world more resilient and safe for flood risk. Flooding, and especially rain-driven flooding, is the costliest natural hazard around the world today. For 80% of urban flood damages today are rain-driven, contrary to the common belief. Now, our problem is that flood models today are rainfall blind, low in the resolution, and outdated in the technology, which leaves the flood risk tools to be costing us billions because we're unaware and missing the actual damages. Cities and insurances are using those static maps that simply miss the underground and street level risk. Today, with emerging technology that Flood Dynamics brings, we have one shared solution to both entities. The price of staying blind is actually really steep. Just last year, insurances across the US lost over $15 billion on flood damages and repayments. This is an issue that is costing the US alone over $30 billion every single year. And again, most of the damages are due to rainfall, not just coastlines. The market is huge. Flood Dynamics revenue opportunity is a serviceable, obtainable market of over $1 billion annually. These are funds that cities and insurances are already spending yearly on flood risk assessment. We will just bring the efficacy to the dollars spent. In terms of competition, we're actually in a landscape of one. Every single tool existing today is low in the accuracy of their results, rainfall blind, and on top of that, they only assess very few features. Mostly, they assess building flood risk. Unlike them, Flood Dynamics is rain-driven, high-resolution, real-time 3D flow, and dynamic flood impact. And we do that for pavements, basement, and various other infrastructure systems for the urbanscape. Here's an example of our flood model. What you see here on the left is the City of Cambridge flood model results, with a dramatic underestimation of the flooding shown in blue. MIT spent $3 million on a model just like that in the last few years. On the other side, on the right side, you see Flood Dynamics flood model and a vast surface flooding detection. Now, this model was not just built here at MIT, but was validated against flash floods around the city of Cambridge. Now, MIT and their insurance company adopted our model, and we're about to sign a contract with them for flood mitigation strategy building for the campus. Here's another example of our unique tech. We bring in the only ones that bring in flood risk maps for road damages, drainage failures, and local catch basin risks. We're not just an alert system. Our system is informing resilient infrastructure and helping to plan a mitigation strategy. In terms of our product, we're a real-time, rain-aware dashboard with a proven 1,000 times improved flood risk accuracy over our 2 pilots. We've uncovered $20 billion of damages that legacy models simply missed, but were materializing every heavy rain. And this allowed a 6-time increased ROI on mitigation spent, saving MIT and the city of Cleveland hundreds of millions of dollars already. Our business model is a SaaS API licensing path with 3 tiers: MVP flood risk assessment, mitigation adaptation strategy building for reduced long-term losses, an AI-driven early warning system for reduced short-term losses. This will allow us to tap into $10 million annual recurring revenue via 3 to 5 clients only. With 2 pilots done, we're in various conversations across municipalities, insurances, and large banks. We're about to meet the boards of the World Bank and FM in the next couple of weeks, and we set a goal to have at least 1 contract by the end of this year. Our team consists of 3 MIT affiliates with a vast expertise in the flood risk world, entrepreneurship, and computational capacities. We're the right team at the right time. We're Flood Dynamics, and we're here to revolutionize the flood risk assessment world. Thank you.
All right, we will now hand it over to the judges for questions.
Really impressive presentation. Could you just share a little bit more about who exactly you sell to? Is it municipalities, insurance companies? And then how do you go about proving the ROI to them?
Yeah. So in terms of who is the clients, it's both. They go hand in hand in a compatible type of market because both have a large stake in the game because of flood damages. Both have the interest to reduce them, and both will benefit from the exact same tool.
Can you talk about why your model is more accurate than others, and what's the moat to prevent others from catching up to you?
Yeah. So our model is a physics-based model with a vast infrastructure and open source data. And one of the base reasons is that we're using emerging technology, and we developed a streamlined methodology. The existing tools are using outdated technology from the 70s, and as we see in multiple cases, the policy is a bit lagging from the technology and the emerging technology.
Maybe double-clicking on Mike's question, how have you demonstrated your value proposition so far in the use cases that you have presented today?
Sorry, I didn't.
Just demonstrate, how have you demonstrated your value proposition in the use cases that you presented us today?
Yeah, so we've developed the flood model and their results. We validated that and uncovered a lot of surface flooding that materialized in flash flood events that existing models of the city have missed. And then we allowed, with the vast risk mapping, we've allowed to understand what are the associated risks and build mitigation planning for them and spend with efficacy the same dollars that are already going on new projects and mitigation for flood risk projects.
And do you use any data with your customers, or is it all open source available information?
So some of this is open source available data. And then as we have the collaborations with either municipalities or insurances, we have the high confidence of the validation with some data sharing between us, and even higher validation and use for the AI system for the early warning from happening events.
So you're providing these mitigation planning, and I'm sure all the municipalities want to do it, but oftentimes they're budget constrained. And so a lot of these things that take a little bit longer, they tend to put in the back burner. So how do you ensure that your plan is actually implemented, so that it does make an impact, because these municipalities are cash-strapped?
Yeah, again, because we're tapping into existing funds and existing project that they're already spending, we're bringing them the efficacy on the project that they do want to do this year, and the projects that they have to show FEMA and the government that they're going to be spending dollars on mitigation. And it also unlocks more funds that they have from the government with projects and showing the efficacy of mitigation from those projects. So it's double.
Just one final question building on that, and great presentation, by the way. I've been affected by flooding, so I certainly understand the importance here. When you talk about the ROI on this, over what time scale are you able to prove that? Is it within 1 year, within 5 years?
So this is, again, it's immediate ROI that we've shown from the flood risk premium going down, and the mitigation strategy that the school, MIT and Cleveland, had to do for the insurance and reinsurance that was going down, because that was an inefficient mitigation strategy. So they avoided spending those dollars and the premiums went down. And also for the flood risk that will happen for a specific 1 in 100 rain event that they have to kind of build towards from FEMA's point of view, they also reduce dramatically their risks.
All right, thank you, Flood Dynamics. Okay, next I would like to welcome to the stage Guardian. Guardian simplifies commodity price hedging for SMBs through an easy-to-use platform that bundles exchange-traded derivatives into transparent protection plans. So welcome, Guardian.
Mr. Roberts, a fuel distributor in Dallas, Texas, has been in the business for a few years, and he's seen a couple things. But when his diesel costs jumped 25% due to unprecedented volatility in energy markets, he was faced with two tough options: either hike prices and lose customers, or absorb the costs and shrink his own margins. And when he turned to his bank for help in commodity hedging solutions, he found them to be too expensive and too complex for his needs. The traditional process today with a big bank or broker can take up to 14 steps across 10 weeks, involving tons of paperwork and a process that's so opaque only the lawyers could tell you what's really in the details. Ultimately, this results in a product that's way too expensive and inflexible based off of what SMB owners and operators need. Mr. Roberts isn't alone. In the US, there are 8 million small businesses across industries like logistics, construction, and manufacturing that face a collective $1 trillion worth of commodity exposure. Moreover, for small businesses, raw materials can make up to 60% of their total cost footprint based off of raw materials. Volatility is a massive risk for them, and it doesn't have to be. Meet Guardian, the platform that helps small businesses lock in stable prices by leveraging their collective demand. And we do this by meeting small businesses where they're at, by aggregating their demand and tailoring these products based off of the duration and quantity of commodities that they need covered. And we also provide flexibility in helping them enter and exit positions as they need. On a high level, we also want it to be very affordable and transparent. That's why we make our upfront premiums very clear, as well as the protection amounts and what they'll be paid out and protected for. And lastly, that 14-step process comes underneath one roof. We're really pushing for a one-stop shop here where those 14 steps are made very clear and easy to navigate for SMBs.
This is our secret sauce, the engine behind Guardian. First, we pull live derivative contract. Second, we aggregate the customer fractional order and match them to the corresponding contract. Third, when a contract is fulfilled, we'll route it to the broker for execution. Our algorithm is fully built, back-tested, and ready to deploy to the live market. We then package our engine into a simple customer hedging experience. The customer only needs to choose the quantity, the commodity, and the coverage period. We will package the contract into a transparent protection plan. The customer can then decide to close a position and receive the payout as needed, giving them the flexibility. Today's solutions are designed to serve large corporations, which require high minimum volume to start with. Guardian breaks this barrier. We are the first fractional commodity hedging solution for SMB, unlocking a new market of 8 million underserved customers. Our first target is a market of 200 billion fuel exposure. We charge 3% for each contract, resulting in the first year estimated revenue of $300K. Our model is highly scalable, high margin, and we are the first mover. We will capitalize on this advantage to grow vertical by vertical. First, to generate early demand, we will lead by educational content, word-of-mouth-driven marketing, and offering freemium risk management and assessment. Positioning Guardian as the go-to solution for commodity risk management. Second, to scale, we'll expand our top of the funnel through targeted partnership with industry groups like the American Trucking Association, and integrate our solution with the fuel card and the fleet management partner like WEX, embedding the solution to the customer current existing workflow. And once the playbook is proven, we will replicate that to other industries like manufacturing and constructions. We're actively building our MVP today, and with extra funding from MIT 100K, we will launch a paid pilot in the next 5 months before a full commercial rollout early next year. Our team understands this market. We combine strategic and operation experience across fintech, commodity, and quant trading. We have scaled B2B fintech product, driven commodity SMB sales, and built trading algorithm. We understand the challenges, and we know how to get there.
Remember Mr. Roberts? He thought that price volatility just came with the business, but it doesn't have to be, because we have a game-changing solution. With Guardian, not just Mr. Roberts, but millions of SMBs across the country no longer have to gamble with volatility. With Guardian, we are allowing SMBs to protect their margins, grow with confidence, and offer stable prices to their customers. Remember, prices fluctuate, but Guardian protects. Thank you very much. We'll open to questions.
Have you done any analysis for black swan events, such as during the financial crisis or during this recent tariff bump up, how that has impacted commodities trading, and how does that compare to the real data that you've seen?
Yeah, I think right now there's been a significant risk-off mindset for a lot of SMBs, meaning they're thinking about how can they protect their margins and really conserve costs, because tariffs are the elephant in the room right now, right? It's a lot of uncertainty there. So with regards to commodities, they're thinking about what are some of the major expenditures for them. For your logistics company, fuel is a big line item for you in addition to labor. If you're a construction company, that's going to be lumber, steel. Manufacturing, definitely steel. So there's a greater interest in commodity hedging, but the access isn't there, because if you go to a bank today, you're going to be expected to post significant minimum orders that SMBs and medium-sized businesses, quite frankly, can't take on today.
But have you done back testing to demonstrate
So we've done back testing, and to emphasize the point, like, we don't take any inventory exposure, so we don't hold anything on our books. Currently, in this stage of what we plan to do, we're currently going to aggregate all the fractional demand and then pass it on to the open market. And for those demand that we can't fill, we'll just inform the user that we don't have enough demand for today, and then they'll be passed on to the next day. So in a sense, we don't take any inventory exposure at all.
You mentioned that you were going to use, the outcome of this 100K competition towards a paid pilot. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what the pilot would look like?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
The paid pilot that you mentioned before, can you elaborate a little bit more about what that looks like?
Right. So that's a very good question. So our plan is to launch the paid pilot in the next 5 months. So we're building our MVP, and we are also actively curating a list of the first 10 to 50 customers. And once we reach the scale of 10 to 20 customers, we can start launching the pilot, because we are the main aggregation, right? So that is the minimum number for us to get started. And the first list of the customer will be driven by, the founder will be outreach. And we are also talking to experts and other stakeholders in the industry, especially from MIT, to starting the conversation and building the list of the first customer.
Can you say more about what commodities or kind of archetypical customers you expect to be most interesting beyond the fuel use case?
I can tackle that one. So when we're looking at beyond fuel, commodities of interest would be definitely steel. Steel is a big one. Second most liquid, most liquid metals market out there. Secondly would be lumber. Again, when we were thinking back to COVID and lumber prices went through the roof with all this demand and not much supply, that's certainly something that is of interest as well, especially given that a lot of it is imported from Canada and other sources around the world. So in order, it'd be steel and then lumber based off of liquidity and depth of pain really is how we're basing it.
Can you guys share any risk that you take? Like I assume you make some commitment to your suppliers, and so if the demand within your customer base changes, are you on the hook for any risk there? Or if prices swing wildly, to the question earlier, are you guys exposed in any way?
Yeah, so today we're trading options, or our business model is built around options. So we have no margin commitment as if we were doing futures contracts. So today we bear very little to no inventory risk because we're primarily involved in commodity options. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Guardian.
Okay, next up we have Polygon Power. Polygon Power is commercializing compact, high-efficiency steam generators for nuclear applications. Please welcome them to the stage.
That's really tough.
Team Apollo Atomics, not Polygon Power, we just changed our names. We're developing compact nuclear reactors for deep decarbonization. I'm going to start with a harsh truth. In 1995, this is how much fossil fuels represented of all our energy consumption, 86%. 30 years later, this figure is 82%. This is not enough. This is not what we need to meet the emissions targets. Now you ask yourself the question, is decarbonization even possible? I think it is. This is the most successful large-scale decarbonization example that we know. In 1973, the French authorities decided to reduce their dependency on oil producers by building new nuclear power plants. 20 years later, they almost decarbonized their entire electricity grid. And to this date, it remains the country that has the cleanest electricity grid in the G20 countries. So why aren't we building more nuclear power plants? Well, it turns out that today's nuclear is too expensive and too slow to build. It takes about 10 years to build a nuclear plant. And then when you look at the cost of production, 70% of it goes to the construction of the plant. This is not what we see in other technologies like natural gas and solar PV. So what's wrong with the construction of nuclear plants? Well, it turns out that the size of the components are so large that you have to ship them piece by piece to the construction site, assemble them there, weld them there, and test them there. This is not what we do with solar PV and natural gas. We actually do all that in a factory in a high productivity environment, mass produce all that, and that's how we drove down the cost dramatically for these technologies. We think we could do the same with nuclear. What you see here is a nuclear reactor building in a traditional nuclear plant. Inside, you have all the nuclear hardware. And at the center, you have the largest component. That's a heat exchanger. It's actually taller than this building that we're in right now. And with our compact heat exchangers that we developed here at MIT for over 15 years, we've managed to shrink the size of this component into a prototype that can fit in this bag. Again, we've managed to shrink a component that is larger than this building into a prototype that can fit in this bag. Unfortunately, I can't open it and show it on camera because of our contract with the US Navy. But essentially, this will enable us to put all the nuclear hardware in one single container that can be manufactured, assembled, and tested in a factory in a high productivity environment, and then send it to the site only for installation. And we do this without any power reduction, unlike many competitors. This will enable us to reduce the construction time by a factor of 5. So from 10 years, we do it in less than 2 years. And we cut the cost of construction by a factor of 4. This is our plan. Starting this September, we're upscaling our existing facility here at MIT to generate the data that will enable us to build a commercial version of this prototype. This will be our first product. We'll sell this to all steam generation installations, like industrial processes, oil and gas, and the US Navy. From there, we'll build a non-nuclear test that will enable us to have a low-power demonstrator reactor for 50 megawatts. At this power level, we can sell our reactors for small and niche-grade applications like data centers. However, in order to compete for the large grade, we need to upscale to 300 megawatts. And that's the goal of our full-power demonstrator. This is a huge market. The global electricity generation is expected to at least double in the next 25 years, driven by AI, data centers, electrification of fuses, as well as replacing existing assets that are dominated by fossil fuels. When you talk to plant owners, the people building the power plants, they will tell you there are 3 main requirements they want to see in new plants to be built in the 21st century. They need energy to be clean, firm, and reliable. And nuclear happens to be our best option to meet these 3 main requirements. This is acknowledged by public and private commitment to triple nuclear capacity in the next 25 years. If you're building them in 10 years, we're not getting there. And that's where we come in. This is a $400 billion total addressable market annually in the next 25 years. And we believe we're absolutely the right team to make it happen. We're a group of scientists, engineers, and PhDs with years of experience in designing and operating nuclear power plants. We're constantly expanding our network of partnerships to make this happen, bringing more affordable, clean, and sustainable energy for the future generations. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and start. Thank you for the presentation. When you talked about the 3 criteria that people want, can you tell me how you gathered that information and specifically who the decision makers are when you are talking about your product or selling in your product?
Yeah, so we talked to many utilities. Obviously, you want the energy to be clean, so low CO2 emissions, but that's not generally a requirement. You need a product that actually makes it into the market. The other 2 criteria are also essential for grid stability. So it needs to be firm. It means that the energy is stable and is dispatchable. When you want it, you can get it. And that's one drawback that we have with renewables, and that's where we want complementary assets like natural gas, which is not clean, and nuclear. And then reliable, you need a technology that operates and doesn't break essentially every 2 weeks.
And so the decision makers that you're talking to, who are they?
Yeah, so we talk to utilities, the people really building power plants. We also talk to data centers and big tech that are wanting to own power plants. It's not really the case now, but they're seeing that the utilities are a bit slow. They might take that role in the near future.
Thank you.
Really impressive, and I love the suspense of what's in this bag right now. It doesn't sound like we're going to find out. Can you give us a little bit of a sense, like, I imagine there's a bit of a lead time to new nuclear plants coming on board. You need to be included in the reference architecture to some extent. Like, what are the opportunities, and more so, what's the like ROI of using this in a non-nuclear implementation to be able to continue to prove it out in the coming years before you reach real success in nuclear implementations?
So one of the challenges, you know, for an industry like this is really, do you have a fundable VC fundable path? And we looked at compact heat exchangers as our path there. So essentially what we're bringing to existing facilities, any facility that makes steam, we reduce by a factor 20 the size of the systems, which means that the buildings where these systems go in will reduce their size. And we also have a better efficiency. So you have, I'll just give you an example. Traditional steam generator in a nuclear plant costs about 150 million. We'll be making these for a couple millions.
What is the biggest technological innovation that you needed to come up with to compress this building into that bag? And how are you protecting your intellectual property around that?
So great questions. So really, being able to shrink this into a small size takes several engineering and scientific advancements. People have been studying two-phase flows, boiling water, for thousands of years. And what we've been studying is actually being able to generate these flows in a repeatable manner and a consistent manner in these very small channels. So we're shrinking the channels way down, and we have potential intellectual property in the areas of optimized designs. The data itself we are generating is going to be proprietary and is currently proprietary. And these future designs can feed models, which we will also protect in terms of being able to support industry and our own products. There's also a lot of engineering advancements in the areas of anti-fouling, anti-film coatings, which I have a fair amount of experience in. And these are areas where we're going to be protecting that intellectual property and developing it to make sure we succeed.
Even if this is a 100K competition, how are you planning to use that money if you were to win?
Thank you for your question. So the 100K is really going to be focused towards de-risking the business model and planning out how we will make best use of every single round afterwards to efficiently de-risk the remainder of the science as well as the business opportunity. And the way that we're going to be doing that is basically focusing on what tests we can run in which order that create the most certain value against the regulatory approvals and against the scientific certainty that we need in order to deliver this as a complete technology. One of the things that we really want to have incorporated in that plan, and why we're spending so much time on it, is to make sure, to your earlier question, that we have an exit path with each response to each of those tests. So if we find that one test is showing that there's not an opportunity in a particular space, that we have a licensing pathway out, we have a partnership pathway out, we have another pathway out, and eventually, if they all succeed, that we have a path to Mars or beyond with the evolution of this technology.
Thank you, Apollo Atomics. All right, next up, I'd like to welcome Absentia Labs, who aims to replace traditional animal testing with AI simulations that accurately predict drug safety and toxicity in preclinical drug development. Welcome, Absentia Labs.
Did you know, to create a small bottle of drug like this one, more than 200 animals are being killed a year? This is the tragic story of drug discovery, but that's not all of it. More than 95% of these animal testings are actually wasteful. They don't really help to translate to human. They don't really add any value in scientific discoveries. Look at this picture, for example. There's not a bunch of rabbits just getting around and smoking a cigarette. This is from a study that was in 1958 that showed that smoking does not cause cancer. But actually, we know that smoking is causing cancer in humans. More than 90% of these animal testings are not really reproducible. Because of that, FDA actually is encouraging alternatives to animal testing, and they are providing regulatory pathways to accomplish that. Besides that, animal testing is a huge burden cost for the drug discovery pipeline. For one drug, we're spending more than $600 million in the early stage research and development. And in the phases of discovery and optimization of our assets and going to preclinical, these numbers are just becoming higher and higher, and we're spending a lot of time optimizing these drugs in the wrong model organisms. For that, we're creating AI simulation to replace animal testing. It is 100 times faster. It's 50 times cheaper than the animal testings that we do. And we also provide translation score across more than 60 species, and this is the data set that we've gathered for a lot of different species that we already have data for. Researchers can do drug testing and validation. They can look at the pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, and they can do even gene engineering before even entering the lab and working with any cells. You know, AI simulations are everywhere nowadays. If you're looking at your phone to check the weather system, every day you're looking at the simulation results. And they're very accurate. We're pioneering simulations in biology. For example, this is a mouse embryo that we have created in silico, and this is the most used mouse that's being used in every laboratory. And we can see the concentration of every molecule in the mouse, where it's distributed, and how it's changing over time. The way that we're monetizing our platform is selling our simulations to a lot of biopharma companies that they're looking to test their drugs. We sell that in the form of subscription. We're also creating not only synthetic data, but informative experiments that people can do, and we sell those as novel data to companies. And if companies are not interested, we actually sell the analytics in the form of if your drug is actually promising or not, or if the candidate number 50 is actually more promising than candidate number 2. So the companies don't have to waste a lot of time and resources on testing the wrong molecules. That's a huge market. And we estimate in the next 2 years, we can replace around 60% of the mice studies that are happening in the US. And that includes toxicity and safety pharmacology that's happening, pharmacokinetics and gene engineering. And for that, we already have customers that we're talking to, like Charles River and Jackson Lab. They're huge CROs that they're doing most of these animal testings. And next phases, we're working with pharma companies, but already have outreach from them. And next, we're going to open up to all the biopharma companies that are actually doing testing, and they can use our platform to accelerate their discovery platform. The way that we're differentiating ourselves, if you think about traditional methods on the left, and all the AI companies that are working on protein level, we're very different. Our approach is very different, where we're looking at the whole organism because that's where the side effects and all the problems with the drugs happen. And we're fully in silico because we believe that the computations are making things much more possible. This is the result from so many years of research that we have done at MIT, and also the experience that we have had firsthand in industry. Working in biopharma, I've seen how very promising drugs and very expensive ones can fail easily, and a lot of companies go bankrupt in a few years. Also, Ruola has worked in AI settings, and he has developed models in different contexts and has shown that AI has very, very promising results. And we actually believe if AI has one very, very prominent application, it's going to be in human health. This is not where we're stopping. We're starting with animal testing. We're replacing a lot of mice and rabbits and dogs and cats that are being used on monkeys. But the end goal for us is to actually bring the whole human biology in silico so we can, the whole promise of actually doing precision medicine, we can make it possible to bring in the AI simulations and in a more efficient and cheaper way. So for each person, we can test the drugs before we actually put the drugs in them. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to questions.
Thank you so much. Is there a product design reason for starting with animal testing and working your way to humans instead of going straight to humans? Or is that, I mean, maybe I'll just leave it at that.
Can you repeat that question? I didn't
So is there a technological reason that you would start with animal testing to work your way to human models instead of going directly to human models?
There's no technological reason, actually. We can predict about humans, and there are some companies that are doing it. But the problem is that FDA does not allow predicting for human if you don't have enough validation to actually your results to be valid. And also, there's a lot of data that pharmaceutical companies own that we don't have access to train on them. But for mouse studies, a lot of data is out there, so we can train. There's no FDA regulation preventing us from predicting. There's already a huge market that we can capture. And also, that proves in a few years when we go to FDA and we want to predict about human biology, we have a good track record of a lot of testing that we have done in different animals and show that our platform is more promising for doing animal testing. So we're taking a different approach. We want to be more creative on our business model.
Can you share a little bit about what you've observed in pitching this to prospective customers? I can imagine on one side, the desire to save cost, expensive R&D dollars is very attractive. And at the same time, the pharmaceutical industry is very set in its ways in terms of tradition and clinical study design. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you've observed about the tension between those two?
Yeah, that's definitely true. You know, pharmaceutical industry is a little bit behind a lot of technological developments, but that's not specifically what we're seeing right now. For example, FDA 2 weeks ago, they just said we don't need any more animal testings for antibody discovery, and they accept alternative methods like in vitro or in silico. So, and there is a lot of ethical changes that we're seeing, but they're also forcing the companies to actually make decisions, not only to adopt these technologies, but also work with us, companies like us, to make them better and to use them in a context that can actually be improved over time. So what we are seeing, we're working in a very highly regulated industry, so we want to be mindful of that, and we can't really disrupt everything at the beginning. But this is the future of drug discovery, and we're building for that future.
Can you share with us the accuracy level of your model versus, the incumbent way of doing things right now? And also, in terms of the animal study, what percentage of the whole drug discovery, which is a multi-billion-dollar process, what percentage of that is from just the animal study versus human trials and all of that? It seems like it's a fairly small percentage, right? So are you making a significant, meaningful impact to reduce the cost of total drug discovery?
So the models that we right now train, there are two different regimes. The unsupervised, that we are approaching 95% accuracy in predicting the next time steps. Also, for the supervised learning that we're using, we're also approaching really high, more than 85% of the drugs and how they affect the distribution, spatial distribution, also time distribution. So it's really high, the accuracy, and we're projecting that with more data, we can even get higher accuracy results, if that answers your question.
And also for your other question, the reason that we're focusing on in this part of the drug discovery is like, we're seeing that a lot of the cost is downstream, in clinical stage. But actually, the reason that there is a lot of cost there because there's a lot of uncertainty. If you're designing a clinical trial, it's really hard for you to rely on animal study that you have. So we're providing more data that when companies actually design a clinical trial, they can be more confident about their platform. So we're also saving time and cost when they actually are designing their clinical trials.
Thank you so much, Absentia. Next up, we have Haven. Haven is an AI-powered financial planning platform that helps families manage lifelong disability care, unlocking access to a $34 billion underserved market.
My sister Shivani has been diagnosed with an intellectual disability. She's 36 years old, but she's mentally 5 and will always be 5. That Shivani can never work on her own, live on her own, and will always need lifelong care and support. As my family plans for a future, a number of questions are keeping us up at night. How much money do we need to save? What public benefits is she eligible for? And how do we structure our private assets so she does not lose those public benefits? And finally, how do we manage the funds and compliance over time? Today, it's costing us over $15,000 a year in upfront costs just to set up the financial and legal protection she needs, and will cost us over 200 hours a year on both manual coordination as well as maintaining compliance as rules change. And we are not alone. This affects 33 million families across the US today, with 69% unsure how to manage long-term care planning and over 50% unable to find a professional who knows what to do. And today, the stakes are higher than ever. Public benefits are deeply uncertain, and it makes private planning even more critical. And there's absolutely no margin for error. Grandpa's $10,000 gift could mean losing $100,000 in annual benefits. That's why we're building Haven, the AI-powered financial platform for families navigating lifelong disability care. We will first start by capturing family information, enabling them to upload documentation on their disability background, enter their assets and income, as well as share a life plan vision. This enables us to build a personalized roadmap, one that can predict care needs and costs over 50+ years, and is powered by Monte Carlo simulations and rule-based optimization to recommend to families exactly the next steps they need to take, what to apply for, and when. Families can then set up their disability accounts within the platform, both in structuring their private assets in the Special Needs Trust Enable accounts, as well as apply for public benefits like SSI and Medicaid waivers and more. Finally, we will make sure we protect their plan over time, both by managing their spending against their forecast, as well as tracking compliance over time. ChatGPT cannot solve this. Haven is the first and only platform that is bringing together siloed data across families, expert workflows, and governments in order to power a true services as a software platform, one that gets better with every single family that we serve as our AI gets better over time, enabling us to serve millions of families at scale. And Haven is the only unified and personalized player among a sea of fragmented and generic human experts, as well as tech solutions. We will serve customers that are families like mine. And we believe serving families is the winning business model here. Because one, we can deliver a full stack solution that delivers lifetime value as families' needs change. We'll build the data flywheel, and we will support the families that are not being served by traditional advisors today at scale. And we'll reach them both through B2C channels, through outreach, nonprofit partnerships, and other growth channels, as well as B2B2C through channel partners like financial advisors, banks, and employers. And out of the 33 million families who have loved ones with disabilities today, we're focusing on the 10 million that require long-term care. And out of that, we will start with the 3.5 million families who have private assets to structure alongside public benefits across the high net worth and mass affluent categories, unlocking a $26 billion SAM and a $34 billion TAM. This year, we will serve 500 high net worth families through both forecasting and planning, as well as spend management and compliance management. And over the next 2 years, we will expand to serving thousands of families, both through increased channel partnerships to drive distribution, as well as creating the products that the families need, from private assets to public benefits. And we're already getting going. We're serving 3 families today with our AI forecasting and planning MVP, and we have 12 more in the pipeline via our community partnerships. And with every family we serve, we will continue to learn about what families need and evolve our product roadmap over time. Finally, we are the right team to do so. My name is Tej Mehta. I'm Shivani's brother. I'm an MIT MBA student and a founding member of Multiverse's US business, which I helped grow from 0 to 20 million in revenue. And I'm joined by Gabe Montague, an AI researcher and engineer across MIT, Berkeley, and Harvard, and a former co-founder of Metro Mobility. And we're surrounded by an incredible team of advisors across the disability space, healthcare, finance, and tech to make sure we can build Haven to the platform that can transform disability care everywhere. Thank you.
So you're targeting as your initial market high net worth individuals, and they often have enough, wealth and assets to take care of their loved ones. The people who really need it are the low-income families, right? And they don't have maybe the education or the financial asset to use your services. What is your long-term strategy for taking care of the full breadth of people in various socioeconomic classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 kind of parts to this. One is, this problem affects not just lower income families, it affects families all the way up the asset classes. Families with, as we've written here, the high net worth category, so not ultra high net worth, but have the 1 to 5 million, let's say, in assets. That's fantastic, but it's not enough to plan for 40 to 50 years of your child's life after you're gone. So they still need to figure out this complicated picture between public and private and need a lot of support today. And the reason we want to start there is because we can start and target and build a services model that can support them as we can then continue to build more and more tech over time. So the second part of your question, our long-term plan is to get to the 6.5 million not in the SAM, in the broader TAM. And that fundamentally comes down to, 1, building the tech and building the AI to be able to do these services and deliver them at scale. And second, we will need to partner with organizations like nonprofits to make sure that we're reaching them, and might have to actually partner with governments and other organizations to see how we can drive down the cost. That's part of the long-term play.
Thanks for building this company. So how are you imagining the other side of the marketplace where you're helping families navigate to care, but then you need to kind of point them somewhere? So can you talk about how on the healthcare side you might navigate them to the right resources?
Yeah. So actually, we're not right now focusing on any sort of care navigation, perhaps down the line. We want to focus, after we spoke to hundreds of families, and my family knows this very intimately, the challenge, there is a deep care navigation challenge. But to even get there, you need to make sure that you are comfortable and clear on what assets you have, and can then therefore unlock a lot more opportunity. So we want to focus and start there, and perhaps over time we'll be able to get there, but that's not the initial focus.
Should totally exist. I can imagine that there's a bunch that you can automate in terms of the services through AI and helping set up the forecast and getting somebody started. But ultimately, do they end up going to a lawyer, to are you guys the services arm as well?
So to begin with, yes. Over time, no. So the whole idea is, so for example, right now, as we're building these plans, we are working to get them checked with financial planners and estate lawyers that we're checking with to make sure the plans are valid, accurate, and we want to bring that information back into the model. So we will 100% be starting with humans, bringing human experts together across financial planning, estate law, as well as kind of benefits consultants to be able to offer that unified idea. Because right now, what we have to do, it's so painful, call one person, another person, a third person, and bring it's just horrible.
Can you share a little bit more about the economics? So what do you charge families for your services?
Let me get there. Sorry, this is appendix slide, so bear with the formatting. But it's going to be a combination of both one-time fees as well as recurring subscription. So families will initially pay either a $500 price for a simple plan without kind of the deep, complex financial modeling, or all the way up to $2,000 for a more of a deeper forecast with all these simulations. And that is, we've spoken to a number of special needs financial advisors, or so they call themselves, and they're at the $6,000 price point. We're even at 1/3, and we think that's still, it's good to get going. Next, with private asset structuring, similarly, it will be one-time fees for setup across the ABLE accounts, special needs trust, as well as for the public benefit application. So there's a lot of this kind of services revenue, admittedly. We then we want to make sure we see the real value in this platform as where we can actually support the family over the course of their life. And that's where the subscription comes in, where we are helping them make sure that they're not missing the key things that will screw them over. So you have too much in savings in X account, you're going to lose Medicaid if you don't fix this right now and spend it down. And that's what a subscription we think is going to be deeply valuable and build that customer lifetime value and hopefully just make our unit economics phenomenal.
Thank you, Haven.
Thank you.
Let's now welcome Umbo. Umbo is developing a fully implantable microphone to enable invisible, effortless hearing for cochlear implant users, targeting a $1.6 billion global market.
Two images, one woman wearing glasses, the other wearing a cochlear implant. Both are assistive devices, but how they're perceived is completely different. Glasses are seen as smart and stylish. Cochlear implants, or CIs, signal disability. Perception matters because there's 60 million people with hearing loss so severe that hearing aids no longer help, and CIs are their only way to restore hearing. But people hesitate to get them because of how they make them feel. Take Tom. Tom is a 50-year-old male from Massachusetts who started losing his hearing in 2016. He got hearing aids, but his hearing degraded to a point where his ENT recommended CIs. But Tom waited for 2 full years because he was worried about how he'd look. Tom is finally getting his CIs this year, but he's about to embark on a new journey with a new set of challenges. On top of stigma, his device might fall off, get lost, or break while running or just going about his day. And every time he goes for a swim or a shower, he'll need to wear special accessories to hear. Now imagine going through this every day for everything that we all take for granted. It's frustrating and frankly, it's exhausting. That's why we created Umbo Mic. Umbo Mic is a microphone placed in the middle ear. And you're probably wondering where it is, and it's right here, fully implanted, fully invisible. It's the missing piece for CI companies to bring fully implantable CIs to market. And thanks to Umbo Mic, that's finally possible. And let's not forget, for users like Tom, no visible hardware means no daily maintenance, no stigma, and because everything's implanted, users can hear 24/7, in sleep and in water. There's currently 2 CI companies, Medel and Envoy, who are testing their own version of implantable microphones, but they're running into real issues with noise and signal clarity. That's where Umbo comes in. Umbo Mic is placed in the middle ear, minimizing body noise like chewing and breathing, and filtering sound naturally using the ear's anatomy. It uses sensor technology that clearly captures delicate sounds like raindrops and whispers without amplifying noise. Umbo Mic has a clear advantage. Now let's take a look at how we bring this to users. The key to our success is partnering with CI companies because that helps us focus on what we're each good at. Umbo will focus on developing and validating Umbo Mic, and as a B2B supplier, we'll supply Umbo Mic as a single source, high-value component. We'll partner with CI companies for integration while they focus on leading clinical trials, submissions, and distribution. By partnering, not competing, we can bring Umbo Mic to users faster. Now, what's in it for the CI companies? Today's CIs are priced at an average of $26K. By integrating Umbo Mic, our partners can price fully implantable CIs at an average of $40K. This means that at just $2,000 per Umbo Mic, we unlock a $12K in additional revenue per device for our partners. Now, what does this mean for both of us? It means that we can grow together. By year 3 of launch, we can sell 44,000 Umbo Mics, unlocking $88 million in annual revenue for Umbo and $530 million in excess revenue for a partner. By year 8, this triples. By year 13, with 170,000 units sold every year, Umbo can bring in $340 million, while our CI partner can capture $2.1 billion in value. Now let's take a look at where we're at to make all of this happen. We have a prototype that's been tested in human cadaveric ears, and you can hear real recordings through that QR code. We're part of MIT Sandbox and Ideas Squared, where we refined our business strategy and helped us win first place at MIT 100K Accelerate. We're in early conversations with 3 CI companies with the goal of securing a formal partnership while maturing our MVP by end of the year. I'm Cuban, Umbo's CEO. I have a background in mechanical engineering and spent the last 5 years in hardware at Microsoft and Meta. John is our CTO, and he's been leading the core research behind Umbo Mic for the last 5 years at MIT. And behind us is a larger research team from Mass Pioneer, Harvard Med, and Columbia. Tom is a reminder that our work isn't over and that there's 60 million other people who are hesitating to restore hearing. At Umbo, we're building a future where every single one of these people can finally hear freely and live fully. Thank you.
We heard earlier that some of the teams had trouble hearing the judges. If only they had Umbo Mic.
So you talked about the additional cost of $2,000 and generating revenue of $12,000, I believe. And so with these CIs, they may be potentially economically unavailable, viable for some patients who actually need it. As you increase the price, would that make the total SAM or SOM even smaller?
Yeah, so if I understood your first question correctly, it means the whole device is increasing in price. So what does that mean for end users? So today's CIs are actually reimbursed by both federal and private insurers in the US and mostly has broad coverage in the EU as well. Now, with fully implantable CIs, that may require a new CBT or reimbursement code depending on the surgical procedure or the change in the device. But Envoy, one of the CI companies, is actually leading that process already. So in the future, we hope that it can be fully covered like how it is with today's CIs. And then the second part of your question, I don't know if I caught that clearly. But yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Cuban has said, like having talked with the big established players, like this is something that they're aware of and is in their roadmap for their fully implantable solutions.
How are you thinking about manufacturing this device?
Yeah, so in terms of the supply chain, we will anchor around where the contract manufacturers are located with their device partners, so mostly in China and North America. And a lot of it is dependent on talking to them. So that's exactly why we're focusing on having early engagements and conversations with them, because every device company is going to want something different. So making sure that as a component supplier, we fully support that with support.
And how do you guys think about the potential to diversify beyond just the two manufacturers that you mentioned you want to partner with? Are there other potential partners you could work with, or any potential to even build your own entire product end-to-end down the line?
Yeah, so working with multiple partners, we are talking to all potential partners at this point. We want all the options open and available on the table. I think it's important to find the one that fits our vision and our financial goals the best. It is a likely future that one of them might want to be exclusive with us, so that is also something that we're taking into account.
Yeah. And even though the technology is really tailored for cochlear implants, what we've really made is like a sensor that can sense motion down to nanometers. So we have heard from some people who are interested in like active monitoring of your breathing and other applications, but definitely we're going to start with cochlear implant manufacturers.
You're typically, for venture capitalists, we're looking for companies that can have the potential to be a multi-billion-dollar type of valuation companies for exits. As you look at your company, you're white labeling your solution effectively. How do you imagine growing to that scale?
Sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
How do you imagine growing to be a multi-billion-dollar company since you're white labeling your solution and you're giving up a lot of the upside potential by partnering with these implant companies?
Yeah,
Right.
I think, one of the things that's sort of unique about the medical device and medical implant industry is, from what we've learned from talking to folks, is that the VCs are very specialized in this area, and they're not necessarily looking for maybe what you would think of as your traditional company that's like growing to billions of dollars. But what is very common is there are exits where like a big company might acquire your technology.
That being said, just looking at the overall industry, it is an industry that's currently growing at 9.4% CAGR. So when we say we grow with them, that truly means we grow with them. Right now, there's 100,000 implants happening every year. Imagine that growing at 9.4% every year for the next 10 years. That's easily over 200,000 implants by year 9 or 10. So scaling that with what we provide as a component, and as John mentioned earlier, always thinking about potential other application does help us grow to a larger level.
Thank you, Ambo. Next up, we have CoFlow Medical. CoFlow Medical developed a low-cost injection device that enables biologic drug delivery over 10 times faster, unlocking broader access to life-saving therapies in a $500 billion market.
Hello, everyone. My name is Simon Rufer, and I'm the CEO of CoFlow Medical, where we're democratizing biologic drug delivery. For patients battling chronic diseases like cancer and autoimmune diseases, every hour of their life matters. These days, we have advanced therapies, known as biologic drugs, that are capable of treating these challenging diseases. However, their administration is unacceptably time-consuming, impinging on the freedom of the patient and effectively leaving them tethered to their hospital beds. The requirement of a hospital setting also makes biologics all but impossible in remote and low-access areas. Today, biologic drugs are predominantly administered via intravenous infusion, requiring 1 to 8 hours in a hospital setting every week and incurring significant costs. Subcutaneous injection could be the theoretical solution to this issue. Similar to a flu shot, it can be done in just seconds at home, dramatically lowering the cost. And on account of its time savings, it's preferred by 90% of patients. However, today, the vast majority of biologic drugs are completely uninjectable because they're simply too viscous, leaving $300 billion of biologic drugs on the table. Imagine trying to force a liquid as viscous as honey through a narrow needle. It's simply not possible. At CoFlow, we've invented a new type of injector, one which can inject drugs no matter how viscous they may be. Here you can see with the exact same viscous biologic drug, with a single steady hand, I'm able to rapidly inject this biologic drug. We do this by surrounding the viscous drug with a second lower viscosity fluid. Over the course of 6 years of research and development at MIT, we've overcome a myriad of fluidic instabilities that have otherwise made this technology impossible. And we've patented the fundamental inner workings of this device. As for the second fluid, we can use the buffer of the drug solution itself, meaning we don't actually biologically or chemically alter the formulation in any way, allowing us to take an accelerated path through clinical trials, requiring just a single phase 3 bridging study. And finally, we only need to manufacture a single component, which is mass manufacturable with existing techniques today, allowing us to achieve a low cost. Experimentally, we've demonstrated up to 200 times faster injections. This places CoFlow in a unique position as the only technology that is capable of administering viscous biologic drugs while simultaneously optimizing the patient experience, minimizing the clinical burden, and reducing the device cost. With this has come significant commercial traction. We've signed partnerships with 3 major pharmaceutical companies who have given us 6 marketed drugs whose annual revenue totals to $18 billion. And for each and every single one of these drugs, we've been able to demonstrate a 10 to 200 times increase in injection speed and full drug-device compatibility. Our value proposition for our pharma partners is clear. Because 90% of patients prefer subcutaneous injection, if we can transition their portfolio from intravenous to subcutaneous, we can increase their market share relative to their competitors. We can also grant them patent life extensions for their existing portfolios, and in the future, enable new clinical outcomes at higher doses. Our partners are so excited by our value proposition that they're willing to pay us just to evaluate our device, and we have $180,000 in revenue today. As you can see on the right, we're able to adapt our platform technology to a multitude of form factors, enabling us to inject any formulation and any volume. In order to capture value in our massive $11 billion market, we aim to continue our collaboration with pharma, in which we'll provide our device, and in return, we'll receive revenue in 3 streams: licensing fees, device sales, and a 5% royalty on drug sales. Not only does this fit within an established revenue model that pharma partners already understand and expect, but it also enables us to tap into the inbuilt expertise of pharma companies in drug discovery, distribution, and clinical trials. We have a robust pipeline of inbound interest, with players ranging from pharmaceutical companies to device manufacturers, hospitals, and institutions, all who are excited to commercialize this with us. We're taking an established path to market, simply with an innovative device, and its simplicity allows us to accelerate this timeline, allowing us to achieve our first commercial sales in late 2028. To give you an idea of just how large the biologics drugs market is, we're currently working with our 3 pharma partners on 6 marketed drugs. If we convert just half of those drugs into products on the market, we'll reap $900 million per year in recurring revenue. We're a team of experienced entrepreneurs who have been working together for 6 years. Between the 3 of us, we've co-founded 10 companies and brought multiple products from the lab to the market, including in the biomedical space. So come with us at CoFlow, where we're commercializing our elegant device that puts the patient first in their fight against chronic disease, unlocking the full potential of a $300 billion biologics market. Thank you.
Thank you. So on one of the slides, I think it was one of the quotes, suggested that there's another solution out there that requires like 30 parts or something. Can you talk a little bit about other attempts to try to inject these more viscous fluids and drugs?
Yeah, absolutely. The beautiful thing about what we're doing is we're not reinventing the wheel in our business model. Subcutaneous injections exist, but simply they're too complex to be viable. And some options, like you mentioned, require 30 components. That would be an auto-injector. So in order to generate enough force, you can use a mechanically complex thing to inject it, but the reward there simply isn't worth it in terms of the clinical burden and the development and the supply chain. We make that transition easier with our simple device, making it much easier to do this. And we're also able to inject much higher viscosities than auto-injectors are capable of.
What is the impact of having a localized injection like that versus doing the 8-hour process IV? And is there a different type of effectiveness of the drug when you deliver it this way?
Yeah, so actually this points in the direction of subcutaneous injection as well. Part of the reason why sometimes it takes 8 hours is because when you inject directly intravenously, the drug becomes immediately available in the bloodstream, meaning that there can be deleterious side reactions that happen. So you may have to co-administer multiple other drugs, which makes the experience only less enjoyable for the patient. With subcutaneous administration, the drug slowly infuses into your system and can reduce adverse side effects.
And using this new delivery, would that be classified as a new type of drug as well?
That's the exciting part of our approach. We're not actually biologically or chemically altering the formulation whatsoever. That second fluid is essentially the drug fluid, but with a drug molecule removed. And we've spoken a lot with our partners about our path through to the market, and they've agreed with us. Actually, they've proposed that we can do a phase 3 clinical bridging study, which is essentially saying you're taking the existing drug as it is, and all you're doing is administering it slightly different. And that can be a significantly reduced pathway to the market.
Could you just explain, this is really elegant, by the way, what does the breadth of the IP cover today, and how much, if at all, does it need to be modified for each different drug that you work with?
Yeah, so we've been intentional about our IP portfolio this whole time. We have a family of 4 patents that cover fundamental operational mechanisms within the device. More than just geometries, we've patented the fundamental phenomena that enable the stability. And that's what we did over the course of our research, so we're very certain about our patent portfolio. And beyond the protection of patents, there's also the protection that we have in our operations and our partnerships. We have partnerships with existing large pharma companies, and we're already working with valuable drugs today.
And is viscosity like the only parameter that you're monitoring, or there's other metrics, some other performance metrics that you really need to track and you can add value to in this market?
Yeah, so viscosity is the physical cause of the challenge. What we're really after is increasing the dose. And for any drug, as you increase the dose, you get a more concentrated solution, which is more viscous. But viscosity really is the challenge which prevents subcutaneous injection.
Great. Thank you so much, CoFlow. Last but not least, we have Aortascope, which combines AI and ultrasound to provide augmented reality guidance for vascular surgery, reducing reliance on harmful X-ray imaging.
Hi everyone, we're Aortascope, and our team is building tools to help surgeons see better. Specifically in the aorta, which is the largest blood vessel in the body, aortic aneurysms are a potentially fatal condition where the aorta expands in diameter. Worldwide, the condition affects 35 million people, and perhaps most concerning is that aortic aneurysms are the 13th leading cause of death in the US today. The preferred treatment is known as endovascular repair. This is a keyhole surgery where a large stent is fed into the body and then deployed inside the aneurysm to reduce the risk of it bursting. And this procedure is challenging due to limitations in current imaging. Currently, X-ray imaging only provides a 2D view of the torso, so surgeons often use guesswork when positioning these implants in 3D. Poor positioning can lead to implant leakage in almost 30% of endovascular repairs, which then require expensive follow-up surgeries that can cost as much as $1.65 billion annually. So to address these shortcomings, our team has developed a platform for real-time 3D implant alignment called Aortascope. Aortascope integrates 2 existing technologies, intravascular ultrasound, which provides 2D cross-sectional images of a blood vessel, and fiber optic shape sensing, which gives you the real-time 3D position of the surgical tool. So using a proprietary data fusion process I worked on for my PhD, our team has built a tool that uses augmented reality to predict the position of the stent in real time. So aortoscope facilitates more accurate alignment of endovascular implants than what's currently possible using X-ray. And this is all possible without exposing the surgeon to potentially harmful radiation that's typical of X-ray fluoroscopy. Aortoscope can also reduce overall operating time, and that translates to significant cost savings for hospitals. So there's two core technologies driving aortoscope. The first is that we use AI to identify structures of interest within the ultrasound image, and then we accumulate those into a 3D roadmap of the vessel. However, ultrasound data by itself is noisy, so we fuse ultrasound with a preoperative CT scan of the patient in order to get a higher fidelity visualization. And so in that sense, we get sort of the best of both imaging modalities. So we've initiated both benchtop and animal studies comparing aortoscope to X-ray in terms of key metrics like speed and accuracy. We already have an approved animal protocol in Massachusetts General Hospital, and we received feedback from 8 surgeons to date. And we're looking to increase this number to refine our sort of product market fit. So ultimately, hospital purchasing departments are our main customer, and they'll make the decision on whether to invest in aortoscope. And we believe that there's a clear sort of financial incentive for them to do so through both reduced follow-up cost procedures as well as minimized operating room costs. And we believe that this case can be further backed by other key stakeholders in this equation. So surgeons will vouch for reduced exposure to ionizing radiation, and patients will seek a higher standard of treatment, which we believe our platform can offer. So we'll generate revenue through both the upfront cost of the aortoscope mapping platform, as well as recurring revenue from single-use disposable surgical tools. We're designing aortoscope to be compatible with any commercially available ultrasound machine. And we're also developing shape-sensing catheters that can accommodate any off-the-shelf ultrasound sensor. So our service addressable market is 200,000 endovascular repairs conducted in the US each year. 70,000 of those procedures take place at just 200 high-volume centers. So that's where we'll concentrate our sales efforts initially. So we expect over 90% of our revenue to come from consumables, with an initial annual recurring revenue of $350 million in the first 2 to 3 years. So given existing predicates in the space, we believe we can target an FDA 510K approval, and that will allow us to avoid expensive clinical trials. We would use the 100K to support 6 to 7 animal studies, which would bring us close to the 10 needed for FDA approval. So following seed funding, efforts will shift towards scale production, and ultimately that'll allow us to gain our first clinical evidence and gear towards acquisition by a larger medical imaging company by the end of 2027. And I wanted to highlight here that aortoscope can be used to address aneurysms throughout the body, not necessarily just aortic aneurysms. For example, brain aneurysms are a major cause of stroke in the US and affect millions of patients. More than that, aortoscope can be used for guiding placement of medical implants throughout the body, such as bioprosthetic valves in the case of aortic valve repair. And we're absolutely the team to do this. I have more than 6 years of experience working in both industry and academic settings on computer-assisted surgery. Brian has extensive experience in the medtech venture realm and can offer continuous feedback as a practicing surgeon himself. And Diego has more than 4 years of experience in design for manufacture in the design of surgical tools. And we also have 3 advisors that span both the clinical and academic realm, including key opinion leaders that will help us drive widespread adoption. So if you share a vision of safer and more streamlined vascular surgery, I hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Thanks. So a question about the go-to-market. So you mentioned, I think, selling to providers directly. Have you considered partnering more deeply with the manufacturers like the Philips of the world to kind of license your product and go to market that way?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point. We think that's one of the potentially strongest ways to market is through a strategic partner. We've had initial conversations with a number of the large players who are very, very interested. It's a highly competitive space, and having a differentiator for their product, they're very interested.
I'd just be curious, how much of the innovation so far has come from the software to actually fuse these multiple signals that you're combining? And do you think you have the potential to charge recurring software revenue in addition to the consumables?
Yeah, so I think the main innovation is certainly in the software and in how we're sort of fusing preoperative CT scans to ultrasound data. So currently the standard there is to fuse actually X-ray imaging with CT scan data. So that's basically taking a 3D CT scan and superimposing it onto a 2D image. So there's sort of inherent ambiguity in that data fusion process. And we've heard direct quotes from surgeons saying that they actually don't trust that sort of data fusion at all. They often ignore it actually when they put it on the X-ray machine. So our novelty, I guess, is using that AI network to identify structures of interest and then looking for landmarks that correspond between the CT scan and ultrasound. And then maybe the second part of the question, maybe one of you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. It could be a software as a service kind of fee per use. And as Tom said, the innovation here is all the competitors, they're trying to fuse different imaging modalities, but everything when you're operating, you're still operating using two-dimensional images. And so you're inherently trying to piece together in your mind, where is that branch coming off? It's taking you longer, you're exposing the patient, you're exposing yourself, you're exposing the team to contrast and radiation. And this 3D navigation has really been a paradigm shift for endobronchial navigation, EBUS technology, being able to go down and sample farther into the lungs, and we see this as a parallel being endovascular.
How are you planning of growing your team to meet the ambitious targets that you have, both on the revenue side of things and also acquisition target?
Yeah, it's a great question. The initial 100K would allow us to complete the ex vivo testing, both in vitro as well as acute non-survival animal studies. That would allow us to have proof of concept for our initial prototype and bring in a number of surgeons to have the standard of care versus our device to really show that improvement in operative time, reduction in exposure, and high accuracy of using the device. And then it would be building out the team and leaning in on expertise of experts that have done this before in terms of the regulatory approval process and the actual product device development. We'll be able to, it looks like, rely on the 510K pathway, as Tom mentioned. So we'll look for experts in the field to help us through that.
Is there any training that needs to be done with doctors as they're implementing this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Yes, it's using it myself. It's very easy and it's very similar to what we're used to in terms of endovascular technology, especially now with the endobronchial robotic navigation system. But there definitely will need to be some training for the surgeons. We see with bringing in colleagues as well. Within kind of 3 cases, they're very facile. Helps if you played video games before. So it's the next generation is going to love this even more. But it will require some training paradigm. But we'll be able to establish that. Thank you very much.
Let's give another big round of applause to our competitors. Voting for the Audience Choice Award is now open, and you will have until 8:30 p.m. to vote. If you're in person with us, please scan the QR code and cast your vote using the unique code that you received when you walked through the door. We have some light refreshments set up just outside, so feel free to stretch your legs, grab a bite to eat, meet some of our competitors. We have vegetarian options on the right-hand side when you exit. Please refrain from bringing food and drinks back in, and please aim to be back by 8:45 for the announcement of finalists. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for coming back.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully everyone got to enjoy some food outside. Now's the moment that we've all been waiting for. We're super thrilled to bring our programming to an exciting conclusion and announce the winners. So tonight we will be presenting 4 prizes. The Audience Choice Award winner, which you have all just selected, will receive $5,000. The 3rd place winner will receive $5,000 as well. And the David T. Morgan Thaler Founders Prize will receive $50,000. And the grand prize winner will receive $100,000 tonight. Now, to announce our winners, the Audience Choice Award winner, who will be receiving $5,000, is Flood Dynamics.
Congrats.
Yes, congratulations. Where's our photographer? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, that's all yours.
All right, now our third place winner is Aorta Scope. Woo!
Nice job, guys. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Cheers.
There you go. Congratulations. All right, get in there. Over there. Okay. Congratulations, guys. All right, and our winner receiving the David T. Morgan Thaler Founders Prize is Haven.
Congrats.
No? Congratulations.
Which way?
Over there.
Oh, sorry.
Congratulations. All right, congratulations to both teams.
Okay. So now I have the honor in presenting the Danny Lewin Grand Prize winner of the night, who will be receiving $100,000. Are you ready? All right, drum roll, please. Congratulations to CoFlow Medical for receiving the grand prize. Very big congratulations.
Over here.
All right, congrats. All right, I just want to say one final thank you for everyone for joining us this evening and making it a night to remember. I want to thank especially our sponsors, our amazing judges, our organizing team, the MIT AV and Video Services, and most importantly to our competitors for their fantastic pitches. So thank you and good night.